in the best way that I can. I've always loved entertaining people. I've always been like outspoken. I've always loved being in front of a camera. And for my whole life, I did that through skating. And then when I was at the Olympics, it was the first time that I was asked to do things that had nothing to do with skating. And it just opened up all of these doors. And I felt like I was right at home. And so I'm so grateful that those doors were open. And as long as they keep opening, I want to stay involved. Like, this is really where I feel like this is where I shine the brightest.
Were you shocked? I mean, like, first of all, you're such a great role model. I mean, as a fellow member of the LGBTQIA community myself, like, you're such a great role model. Like, were you shocked at like the reception to you at the Olympics? You were the first US person to win a medal, and what is the state today in sports of like, coming out? You just always hear so many different stories.
Um, while I was at the Olympics, I really had no sort of concept. Like, yes, I could see on my phone that like there was a lot of attention, but while I was there, like, you're in this bubble, and it really wasn't until I came back that not even when I came back, I think like it was in the few years that followed that I have started to feel like, oh wow, like that was a big deal. When you're in that sports world, it's just like your goals are so limited, not even limited, but it's just like you have one goal, and it's to make it to the Olympics, to win a medal. And you're so focused on that. And I told myself that I wasn't going to worry about what happened next. I wasn't going to focus on anything else except what I needed to get done. And even though I was like a clown idiot on TV when I was doing interviews with everyone, at the Olympics, I was still getting my job done, like as an athlete. And so I still think, like, when I think back, one, I think being an Olympian is the craziest thing anybody could ever want to do. You truly have like a few minutes to show like your whole career to the whole world. And yeah, it's wild. Like, it's very wild because now I've gone and I've worked at two Olympics so far. I worked at the ones in Tokyo and at the ones in Beijing. And when I see the athletes now from my own point of view, I'm like, do you guys know how insane it is what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine it. So congrats on all of that. And I think it's got to be a hard life just to get there and to be there. And it's a lot of dedication. Speaking of dedication, you did win the Mirror Ball trophy. How does that compare to this? Like, was this Stars on Mars as difficult? I mean, winning a Mirror Ball trophy, I have spoken to many, many people that have come through the Dancing with the Stars regime, and they all say the same thing about how difficult it is.
Yeah, you don't real like the Dancing with the Stars was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But there's a few little things that like make that experience a little bit more palatable. And I think one of those is that, like, you aren't being filmed 24 hours a day. You aren't being put in this living situation with 12 strangers. And that, I mean, that is really, really intense. And I think for a lot of the people that went to Mars, that was the most intense part about it. Like, yes, it was way more physically demanding than I thought it was going to be, but the biggest component was like the emotional component of knowing that you're being filmed the whole time and you're with all of these new faces. And it's a lot. Like, when I finally came home we filmed in Australia. Sorry to spoil that
Wow.
illusion that I've been keeping. But when I came back, I slept for like 3 days, like straight. And I was like, okay, my nervous system was shot.
Wow. I mean, it's like going into the Big Brother house. You're 24/7. Do you have any desires to go? I mean, Dancing with the Stars, Stars on Mars. I mean, should we go down the list? Do you have any other reality TV competition aspirations here?
No, no. Survivor, I can't even think. Big Brother, I think we were there for about a month. And isn't Big Brother like 60 days?
I think it's even more if you make it to the end. It's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I
gonna
think, like,
call it. I'm
yeah,
gonna call it. I'm not going.
you would be
60
away.
plus days, because I was thinking like, Love Island. I watched like my first UK season of Love Island not too long ago. And I can tell you that that's what I spent 65 hours of my life watching, because there were like 60 plus episodes. And I was like, oh my God, they're really there for 2 months. Like, this is an every day. They're showing every day. And when we were filming this show, I was like, oh my God, like I could do it physically, but I don't think that I'd ever do it willingly.
You'd be away from home. I mean, out of all that you've done in your media career, one thing that stands out, a guilty pleasure of mine, is Messiness. I mean, how fun was that to work with like Snooki and Tori Spelling?
I mean, one, it doesn't get really any better than working with Nicole and with Tori. They're just some of the best people I've ever worked with. They're both so nice. They're so funny. And Messiness was just so easy. We just had such a great, we had such fun filming that show, and we had such a great camaraderie between all of us. So I always loved filming Messiness. And it's like my favorite kind of show to just put on in the background, which is, that's sometimes you just need that. You just need like something that's soothing.
It was so great. Well, I learned this from reading your book, which I never really knew until I read your book. You met your husband on Tinder. Like, why aren't you like one of the national spokespeople for Tinder? I mean, I can't think of that many people in the public eye that just openly that I know that have met their spouse on Tinder. I'm sure there's more, but you are, I think, the only one I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I did my first brand deal with them not too long ago, but I felt like, wow, it took them a long time to catch on to what I had caught on to. But yeah, we met on Tinder. So I was actually, this was before the Olympics, and I was at a competition in Finland. Obviously, I was incredibly focused. I was on Tinder while I was at this competition.
Of course. I mean, that's the first thing you got to do when you arrive somewhere, right?
Well, you just think in your mind, like, what if I find a European husband? I didn't know I would, but it's just that's the first question that you might think if you're on Tinder in Europe. What I could be attached to this continent somehow. And we matched, but we never met. And somehow we just kept communication up. And then it wasn't until maybe like 6 months later that we actually met in person for the first time.
Wow. And that was what type of couple? Like, do you guys go out a lot? Like, what do you do in your spare time when you're not on Mars?
No, we're so boring. We have can you see our dog? He's right there. He's asleep. Yeah, we have a dog. Yeah, we love to stay home, and we love to have our friends over. JP is a really good cook, so we love to like make dinners for our friends. I always say I don't help. Like I should, but we do love to have everybody over and entertain people, and that's our favorite thing to do.
You're like, let me open the wine. That counts